Sonke, and I'm an independent consultant and developer from Hamburg. And yeah, as Alex already said, I'm the organizer and founder of the Serverless Hamburg meetup. And you can find me here on the usual suspect websites. And there is an announcement I want to make. Actually, I'm going to plan with a few colleagues the JeffConf Hamburg. We don't have any date yet or whatever, but this we just claim it here. Thank you. Thanks. And I only have 20 minutes, so I better hurry up because I have like 80 slides or so. This is I want to state a relatively simple looking problem. It's we want to host a static website and with password protection. So usually you would say something like, okay, let's use an VM or whatever or server, put Apache and Nginx on it, and have some htaccess, ht, password stuff like we did it all the time for 20 years. So we are at a serverless conf, so we already know that there are some problems with it. So we don't have real self-service. We have this dilemma, for example, who maintains the operating system and the, like for example, security patches and so on. So actually I had a UX designer approaching me with this problem because he said, yeah, I have the very regular problem that I want to host click dummies or prototypes and showcase it to my customers. So I need some kind of protection because it should be world readable. And it should behave like a static web server, so what you know from Apache or Nginx, for example, when there is an index HTML, it should also be sent to the client. And yeah, pretty standard nowadays is that everything is fully encrypted in transit, so HTTPS was also a requirement. And as UX designers usually don't want to take care of containers or Nginx, and me neither, there was another thing that I should have in mind, and this was easy to set up and no maintenance. So I wanted a one-click install on T2, so he just wants to click on a link or whatever, and then something installs. So like setup exit installer, but in the browser. And yeah, so because then it's automated, it's reproducible, and it's self-service. And I don't have anything, I just have to provide some link or template. And optional, it would be cool to have some kind of user management. Like I can add several users, and they all get their own password, and they can also delete the users, and so on. So I don't have, for example, to give a shared password out to everyone. And I said, okay, challenge accepted, and I add my own requirements or constraints. As I'm currently a AWS fanboy, I said I want to do it in AWS, and it should be serverless. And I reused the serverless definition from Paul, which actually constrained me more. And then I had a look, because usually I try not to build stuff on my own, but to find it elsewhere. And so I looked in AWS, and I found, okay, there's this feature called AWS S3 Static Website Hosting. Who knows it? Okay, some of you know it. And I had a look. Okay, so it's serverless. I don't pay anything if no one is using it. It has website hosting characteristics. I can put an index HTML in and it will be delivered when I request / and something like that. But actually, it doesn't have HTTPS. The S3 bucket is not secured. There's no, I cannot somehow add a password protection to it. I could do an easy installation, for example, with a CloudFormation template. So who knows CloudFormation? Okay, a few of you. So like there's a template, and I can just specify stuff in it, and people can reuse this template or recipe. more of it later. And there's also no user management built into S3 static website hosting. So it rather looked like this in AWS itself. So I looked a little bit further. What else is there? There's s3os.com. Anybody heard of this one? Okay, no one? Don't, yeah. Yeah, it looks a little bit like this. You can register some domain like protected content s3os.com. Then you have to provide an S3 bucket, and there's a user, and the user can authenticate with basic auth, and then it will deliver stuff. So it's, in the definition, it's serverless. It has website hosting character. I didn't test this, but they claim it. It's not fully encrypted in transit, so you can see the HTTP there, so they don't have HTTPS. The S3 bucket is somehow secured with hard-coded credentials. There is no easy installation. I have to do all this stuff on my own. There's so there's no like one-click template. So I have one, or let us call it setup Excel. But there's user management, so you can add users. Then I found another one. This is really awesome because you won't understand what happens now. But don't worry. There's a Cloudfront distribution. Who knows Cloudfront? Some of you. So Cloudfront is basically the CDN service of AWS. And then I learned something. It's called origin access identity, which means I can protect an S3 bucket with Cloudfront. So because I put Cloudfront in front of S3, and with this origin access identity, I can make sure that only the stuff in the S3 bucket can only be accessed by the Cloudfront distribution. Yeah, then there's the user, and then something strange happens. Then there's a default root object in configuration in Cloudfront, which means if I go to the Cloudfront URL, then auth HTML will be delivered, and then there's a form on it, and you can post credentials to it, so username and password. Then it will do something with a trusted signer feature of AWS. Has anybody heard of this before? Like Cloudfront and trusted signers? One person, two. Okay. Yeah, so, and this actually needs a private key which is somewhere hidden in AWS. I didn't find an API for this. Yeah, then it redirects to the Cloudfront distribution again and delivers the index, and Cloudfront then validates a signed URL which has previously been signed, and it returns the index HTML. Yeah, so as I said, you don't have to understand it now. So it's serverless. But it hasn't website hosting characteristics because only index HTML is protected, nothing else. It's fully encrypted in transit, at least. The S3 bucket is secured with the origin access identity, which is cool, so I learned this one. But it has no easy installation because I would have to set up all the stuff on my own, and it would take days maybe, or years for the poor UX designer. And it has also no user management because there's just a static username and password. But actually, it is a really awesome hack. So because he used all the stuff which is there, or she, I don't know, so just the developer, and I actually learned almost everything about Cloudfront because they just used every feature of it. But actually, none of the researched ways satisfied my requirements. So I had to do what I don't like. I had to build it on my own. And actually, at this time, Lambda at Edge got generally available. I guess there was also some intro into it. So how does it work? We had this slide before. I just stole it from the Amazon website. Actually, we can hook into Cloudfront. So we have 4 hooks. We can, before the Cloudfront cache is called, we can hook into the so-called viewer request after the cache, so between cache and origin server. We can hook into it, called origin request. We can also hook into the response, so we could also change, for example, response headers. And we can also hook here into after the cache has done something. So some more details. It's a 3 seconds limit, so not like the usual Lambda with 300 seconds, because they say on the edge everything should be very fast. And it has actually network access, but not everywhere, as we will learn. It's node only, so there is no Python and so on. And it has a memory limit of 128 megabyte. And it's actually built per 50 milliseconds, not per 100 milliseconds, which really makes sense because most of the time the request should be, the Lambda execution should be really fast, because otherwise you're doing something wrong within the synchronous request response cycle. Okay, so my plan was like this. I have my S3 bucket where I put my content in. I have a Cloudfront distribution, and it's, as we learned, we can secure it with this origin access identity, so no one except this Cloudfront distribution can actually access the S3 bucket. Then we have the user or the client, and something is going, and the Lambda at edge function does all the magic. So let's see how, and then I looked, can it do all the magic I want? So at first I want to see, can we pass the authorization header from the client to the Lambda function? So it looks like this, Cloudfront distribution, basic auth looks like this. Authorization header sent, so I looked, and it will be passed to the viewer request function, and then I just had a look if it works, and actually it worked, so I can access this header in the Lambda function. So success, that's great. Next thing to check, can we generate the CDN, like the HTTP response in the CDN, for example. If it's unauthorized, I have to send a 401 unauthorized header, or I could do this. Then I found this in the documentation, looks good, we can do it. So, for example, this is some code, so we can generate a response and send it back. In this case, as you see, there's a 401, and we just sent it back with the www authenticate header. So success, really cool. Next thing was network connectivity, because maybe because I had this like should have feature that I want to have some kind of user management, and there's also, for example, in the AWS world, there's this cognito user pools feature. So the problem was, in the viewer events, there's actually no network connectivity, but it's in the origin events. So I tried the origin events. And then I learned that Cloudfront does not pass the authorization header to origin request. It's also documented somewhere, but I felt a little bit trolled. So I said, okay, how can I troll them back? So what happens if I take the authorization header in the viewer request function and then rewrite it? So for example, like this, I have the Cloudfront distribution, the client sends the authorization header, I have the viewer request function, I reuse the authorization and try to pass it as an X authorization pass-through from viewer request header to the origin request, and actually this worked. So in the origin request event, I had all three things I want to have. I can access the authorization header, I can generate a custom HTTP response, and I have network connectivity. Great, so next thing, user management. As I already mentioned, there's this nice cognito user pools feature. Who knows it? Some of you. So actually it's like, who knows auth0? maybe some more people. Yeah, actually it's auth0 from AWS, but not like the entire auth0, but most of it. Like I can actually manage my users in AWS. So I have the origin request function, I have internet access there, network connectivity, so I can just connect to a cognito user pool. The code is, I would say, this was the easiest part of my little experiment, because this was just like, I just did it and it worked. So no special stuff here. I copied some code from the example and then it worked. So yeah, this was really cool. Straightforward. Actually, I'm using a, the incognito user pools, usually they say, please use an OAuth flow, but I wanted to do it with with a simple HTTP authorization header. So they also have the possibility that you can pass a username and password and then validate this against the user pool. Yeah, and this was, yeah, as I said, this worked without any problems. Almost the last challenge. Then I wanted to test the website hosting semantics. Remember, we don't have this S3 website, static website hosting feature here, so, and the REST API, which is used in this example, does not provide these semantics. So first I wrote an integration test. Who knows this format? It's called Gherkin. So it's like when, then, or no, it's sorry, it's like you just specify when this and this is done, and then this and this should happen. So, and in the examples, as you see there, I had some examples. I had something like, okay, when a file is uploaded to the S3 bucket and I request the path, then it should, then the response code should be 200 and the response content should be the same. So I just checked, I generated some random content and checked if it's the same after it. So yeah, the first one is like a no-brainer because it's just upload the file and return it. This should be green anyway. Then the next one is handled by this Cloudfront default root object, which is like you can specify the default root object, but this is only true for the root object. It's not true for /first/index.html. So these needed some special handling, but luckily I can just rewrite the request URI so it fits for S3. So this is the sample code how to rewrite the request URI. And yeah, then I could just execute my integration test, and after some iterations, everything was green, and I could finally, yeah, full of win, and finally I could go to the end boss. And the end boss is easy installation. So because what I want is I want one button, and for example, if the designer or whatever user clicks it, they will be redirected to the AWS console, click on let's do it, and then it should do stuff, and after some minutes or seconds, it should be done. So, and in AWS, this is called CloudFormation. And then I had a look. So CloudFormation, you usually have yeah, couple of minutes. Yeah, am I already over 20 minutes? 30 seconds left? Yeah, okay. So yeah, CloudFormation. So I looked, and in CloudFormation you usually have one feature which is not supported. So in my case, it was CloudFormation currently does not support Lambda at Edge and the CloudFront origin access policy, because I wanted to describe everything in one CloudFormation template. And then I had a look at Terraform. So who knows Terraform? There was Also in one of the Italian talks there was something with Terraform, but I didn't understand anything, so maybe. So, but at least you heard the buzzword twice today. Terraform is actually like CloudFormation, but it's more generic. So you can also use it for other cloud providers to describe the resources. Yeah, and Terraform actually supports Lambda at Edge and the Cloudfront origin access policy, but not the user pools. And because it's a CLI tool or binary, it doesn't support a one-click template out of the box. So I cannot like form a hyperlink out of it. So I said, okay, CloudFormation is a must-have because of the one-button installation, what I wanted to have. And the problem is, yeah, Terraform doesn't have some features which I need. So what should I do? Then I found out, or I knew that CloudFormation has something like custom resources, and I said, why not combine them? So why not execute Terraform from CloudFormation? So I gave it a try, and after some hours, it looked like this. Here's actually Terraform in CloudFormation. Actually, I don't know if it's a good idea, but it's possible. Here's the Terraform code. There's a resource, so what is really cool about it is that I can now use all the Terraform stuff here, and I don't have to so otherwise I would have to implement all the stuff that Terraform or CloudFormation do for me by myself. So this was one of my main drivers, that I don't want to reinvent the wheel here. So yeah, this is actually this origin access identity, and in Terraform there are also outputs. So thing is that back in the CloudFormation template, I have to reference the outputs, and this is also possible because I can just call the Terraform resource, so the custom resource, and then it's an attribute. So I can use this get@add function within CloudFormation. Yeah, and actually this worked. So I had my so I had my one-click install. So summary is, my S3 bucket is fully secured. There's no security to obscurity so there's no S3 bucket, and if someone knows the name, they can access the stuff. It's fully encrypted in transit. I have easy user management with talking to user pools, so the designer can actually use the AWS API to click users. And I have a fully automated one-button install, thanks to my really awesome Terraform hack. And now, what I also like Paul, low or no total cost of ownership, fully serverless. We only pay for the traffic and storage and some Lambda at Edge compute. And there I have a demo, so you can just go to this website, and then you go. It will redirect you to GitHub, and yeah, please test it, launch it, use it, fork it, fix it. There's also this launch stack button, and you can actually press on it, and if you are logged into the AWS console, it will launch Cloudfront distribution. And if you open the Cloudfront distribution, you will see this username password field. Okay, thanks.